Hello, Haunted Heart Society members. It's me, Emily S.W.
Sam.
And we are coming at you with another episode of the Haunted Heart Society Dark Literature Podcast. In this episode...
I was just going to say, and that's right.
This episode, we are continuing our magical mystery tour. And if you solved the cipher...
Oh, there was no cipher this time.
Oh, okay.
I forgot to do it.
Okay. Well, we're continuing the magical mystery tour of 2026 with a discussion of the Father Brown mystery series by G.K. Chesterton.
Yes.
Before we get into that, make sure to follow us. If you're listening to us on a podcast platform, subscribe on YouTube. You can also follow us on Instagram, Tumblr, Substack, TikTok. Is that all of them? Yep. So follow us. Give the video a like if you're on YouTube. Heart it, favorite it, share it, hit the buttons. I was going to say Monsieur Brown because I'm so used to talking about French detectives.
Well, there are French people and French detectives involved.
Yeah, that's true. But Father Brown.
Père Brown.
Yeah. Not French. He's British. And these
he's English,
series...
isn't he?
Yeah, he's English. So my first introduction to Father Brown as a concept was via the TV show. And not personally...
It was a BBC show, right?
Yeah, it's a BBC show. And I didn't personally watch it. But my father likes British mysteries. And he was really excited because he found this great new show. And Father Brown is played by the same actor that plays Mr. Weasley in the Harry Potter movies. So he was really excited about it because he knew who the actor was. And it's a good show, apparently. I still haven't seen it.
G.K. Chesterton has kind of been in the periphery, the outskirts that I've been looking into, like with the Gothic poems and stuff like that. But this is the first time we've read him.
Yeah, he comes up a fair bit if you're looking into certain types of literature.
Especially, well, obviously mystery, but also like romantic and Gothic genres too. And there was a quote that I wanted to read, and I got it from the Encyclopedia Britannica. And this was the article about penny dreadfuls. Because there was a quote from Chesterton in the article about horror and Gothic. So I want to read that because I think it's great.
Oh, yeah, agreed.
The full quote from the encyclopedia says, "The genre has, however, had its highbrow defenders, most notably the English writer G.K. Chesterton. Quote, sensational novels are the most moral part of modern fiction," he wrote in Fiction as Food. "Any literature that represents our life as dangerous and startling is truer than any literature that represents it as dubious and languid. For life is a fight and is not a conversation."
Bars. Spittin' bars.
I have to say, there were some lines in, because what I just read the entire first book, which was a collection of short stories, and I read a ebook version, and there were some parts that were so, like, good. I actually highlighted them because I wanted to read them too.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's really funny because I had a bit of a different experience reading Father Brown. I was not hugely a fan of the stories overall.
Oh, well, here's the thing, and this is going along with stuff that I was reading about them in general, is Chesterton wrote them very quickly, and they're of varying quality. And
yes.
he was even to admit that, but they were very popular. People really liked them, so he kept writing them. The further, or I should say, the later you go into the stories, the more they become just a vehicle for his religious theories and beliefs. Which I think is also evident very early on, too.
I have a physical book, a collection, that was put out after the TV show came out. And in the introduction, it mentioned that Chesterton himself thought that his best work was The Man Who Was Thursday, which is a Gothic, like a thriller. And the full title of that is The Man Who Was Thursday, A Nightmare. So it's like, it's longer than a short story, but it's shorter than it's like a novella length, I think. But so he himself was like fully acknowledged that Father Brown is not anything of his best work.
No, but he is still considered to be one of like the, I guess, important literary detectives.
Yes, and he did influence a lot of other writers that were to follow.
So that's why we're sitting here talking about it today.
Yes, and actually, someone who we haven't read yet, George Louis Borges. He's Argentinian. It's probably Borges.
I don't speak Spanish.
Yeah, I don't know.
He
My
also
brain.
had a quote. I did see that. I think it was on the Wikipedia.
Yeah, George Louis Borges, Argentinian writer, extremely influential, especially as a Spanish language writer. Wrote a lot of mysteries and like gothic fantasy, science fiction kind of things. But he had a lot of great respect for Chesterton and compared Chesterton to Edgar Allan Poe. So we're going to read some of Borges a little bit later.
I don't know if I'd go that far. But then again, we've only read Father Brown.
See, I can kind of see it, at least tonally. Like, there's kind of an air of silly is not the right word. It's just so overblown that kind of reminds me of Poe. Although I do think Poe's writing is a little better generally all around. Like, more my taste, personally.
Well, here was something that I found very interesting because Father Brown is always presented to us as this very quiet, unassuming guy. And he always
Meek.
kind of is just there.
Yeah, the word meek comes up.
And he's always described as short but then the crimes that are described to us are like graphically violent.
Yes, and like ridiculous. Like the first story that I read personally had a man be decapitated fully with a sword.
That was the second one, just like period. Because I told you I read the first book, which was published in 1911, I think, and it had stories that had started being published in 1910. So the first one in that book, so the very first appearance was the Blue Cross, I think it's called. And then the second one is The Secret Garden, which is the one you're referring to.
Yes.
I think it's important to note. So the Blue Cross, we actually don't follow Father Brown as a character. We follow a French detective.
He's a recurring character.
He's chasing after a jewel thief named Flambeau. Basically, Father Brown is also kind of following, or he's with this thief, and he's leaving his own set of crimes as a trail for this detective. But we don't really see him until the end of the story. And I did have something highlighted in that because there was a reference to the line is, a man named Williams does quite accidentally murder a man named Williamson. It sounds like a sort of infanticide. That, I believe, is a reference to the Ratcliffe Highway murders, which we talked about last time with Edgar Allan Poe and Thomas de Quincey. Because the man who was executed for those murders was John Williams, and one of his victims was John Williamson.
It's all connected.
It is all connected, yes. So I just thought that was very interesting. And it's like, we keep learning these things, and then like it brings this deeper understanding every time you read something.
It's almost like the more we read and the more we fall down these rabbit holes and follow the threads, the more we know.
Yeah, and there was also a Shakespeare reference in The Secret Garden.
Macbeth.
That's right. So we're already checking off our Gothic must-haves.
Yeah, and it's like you said, the descriptions of the crimes are pretty brutal. They're some of these murders graphic.
But then there's also a lot of humor in these stories.
Yeah.
And here's another line I highlighted. Okay, so this was also in The Secret Garden, and it is because someone, gets decapitated with a sword, and then another head is discovered.
Another head,
yeah. And the line is in the book, first one head was hacked off, and then another. In this case, he told himself bitterly, it was not true that two heads were better than one.
Now, see, that is a funny line. I was struggling with these a little bit because I don't even know. It was just like the humor was not humoring for me.
I thought the first two were really funny.
Maybe I'm just in a bad mood. I've had a rough week. It wasn't hitting the spot. I was getting really frustrated. And I think part of it, I was more in the mood for some serious crime solving. And these are definitely not that. Like, these are kind
they're not serious at all.
Yeah, these are like feel-good mystery stories. These are the kind of mystery stories that like you could share with your grandma and it won't scandalize her. Well,
aside from all the heads that get bashed in.
But they're, like, wholesome mysteries despite all the gruesome murder. And I think part of it is because the main quote unquote "detective" character, the mystery solver, is a priest. Sorry, I'm ranting and raving. That was another thing that kind of annoyed me is every time they describe Father Brown, it's just, "Oh, he's so meek and plain and timid," whatever, and I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, when you're also reading a collection like this too, obviously when he was originally publishing, you'd get one story at a time, so you didn't necessarily have to have read the previous stories. So each time he almost has to reintroduce the character. But when you're reading a collection, you're like, yeah, I know, like, we heard this already. Move
Yeah.
on to the plot. Like, we know who this character is. So I guess that's one of the things that makes it difficult about putting a serialized collection like this together.
I get it makes it handy. Like it's useful as somebody who wants to kind of get an overview of the character and take a look at tropes and all that stuff. But it does, I think, the experience is vastly different than it was intended to be, I think.
Valentin is only in the first two stories. Oh, after The Secret Garden, the French detective is no more. And
Yeah,
I
which
kind
is
of wonder if he started the first story with the intention of having Valentin be a more important character and then like changed his mind.
that kind of seemed like what it was because he was very well developed for a character that never shows up after two stories.
Well, then he was the point of view character too. Like the point of view character
Mhm.
wasn't Father Brown; it was this French detective, and then offs him at the end of story two.
Yeah, and he
And
was
I was a
also
little shocked.
wait, especially because he was interesting. Like, he was a good character. He has this wacky career and this weird life with this cool house and gone.
After this horrific crime.
Yeah, but Father Brown is also notable because he is not alone in the category of priests in mystery fiction.
No, and that was another reason why I wanted to like read one of these stories. The genre of mysteries and detective stories where like the detective is like a monk, a priest, or a nun is a whole thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of dichotomy, or maybe not dichotomy. I don't know if that's the word I want to use. But it's an interesting contrast to like a Sherlock Holmes character who is extremely secular and
Yeah.
science driven and all this stuff. Whereas Father Brown, he's trying to solve the mysteries. He's not using science. He's not putting all these facts together through his big intellect. But his desire to solve the mysteries comes from a desire to help people.
He also, for much of the stories, he will like almost just observe what's happening for most of it. And then he comes to his conclusions just based on his understanding of people and their motivations.
It's impossible not to compare him to Sherlock Holmes, like any detective to Sherlock Holmes, because Sherlock Holmes, like so many of our tropes are based in Sherlock Holmes. And what's the Poe?
Lupin?
It's almost like Father Brown was created to be the opposite of that. It's like, oh, this guy uses deduction. I'm gonna have this Father Brown character just be a really like an empath and understand human nature.
And it's also, I think, the way he approaches justice is very interesting. Of course, again, being unique to his position as a priest because he's going at it with this kind of moral motivation. But when he approaches the perpetrators of the crimes, they're not calling the police, he's not throwing them to the police, but he almost gives them the chance to either repent or turn themselves in and to do the right thing on their own. Like, he'll have the answers, he'll know exactly what happened, but he will keep it to himself unless there's some like other further consequence that could come from him not, telling the police. But usually he doesn't. Or like with the case of Flambeau, the jewel thief. There is in one of the stories. Oh, that's a cat.
Yeah, sorry. London, would you like to say something? Did you catch that?
No, I didn't hear it.
Okay, well,
Um,
continue.
in one of the stories, Flambeau, who was in the first story, he returns and he pretends to be this like relative from Canada. So he shows up at this house. And of course, because he's whatever, the relative from Canada, apparently no one in this family realizes that they don't actually know him. And they're having this party and he organizes for the whole family to have this like harlequinade. So they're all dressing up in costumes and they're going to put on this performance. And he says, well, they get this other guy that they know to have him get a police uniform and have him show up and be the policeman in the play. So he is trying to use his Harlequin costume to hide the fact he's stealing jewels by incorporating them into like the costume. And then the policeman shows up, and as part of the play, they kind of beat him up and knock him out. Then Father Brown realizes it was an actual cop who had come to investigate, crime. Father Brown kind of confronts Flambeau as he's trying to escape in the garden, and they have a chat. And from then on, Flambeau changes his ways, and he actually becomes friends with Father Brown, and he becomes a recurring character as like a fellow co-amateur detective.
I mean, first of all, victimless crime. I mean, who's a victim? The wealthy? Whatever. Second of all, I fully support having a jewel thief be a detective. I mean, who better, right?
Well, here's another quote that I highlighted, and this is Father Brown talking. And he says, "Odd, isn't it, that a thief and a vagabond should repent when so many who are rich and secure remain hard and frivolous."
Go off, Father Brown. You said it. See, this is the kind of energy that I feel like the world is lacking a little bit right now.
But one thing I did want to really quick touch on about like the other, or I should say the genre of priests, monks, and nuns being detectives, because I checked out a few more books from the library in this genre.
Oh, okay.
So one is called A Morbid Taste for Bones, which is from, I believe, 77, and it is a Brother Cadfael mystery, and it takes place in Wales. And then
I've heard of those.
Yes, and then I have Absolution by Murder, a Sister Fidelma mystery, which I believe takes place in Ireland in the 7th century. And then I also have The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, which takes place in the 14th century in a Italian abbey. So you see what these books have in common.
Yes, that one is very famous.
Yes. They all take place in the Middle Ages.
Yes, and they all, I was going to say something stupid. Scratch that.
Father Brown, I think, is contemporary to when Chesterton lived.
Yeah.
But these other ones, they all take place in the Middle Ages. And I think that makes a lot of sense because this was a time period where religion and government were very intertwined. So religion and the justice system were also very intertwined.
Yeah, that's a concept that doesn't work, I think, in modern day, especially in America,
because we have the separation of church and state because of, things like the witch trials.
Yes.
Do not ever forget witch trials were carried out by the government.
Yep.
But that was all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, I've never read any of those stories, but I've seen them floating around. And honestly, it's mostly just because I'm not super into religion as a concept generally.
I haven't read these other ones yet because I literally just picked them up on Wednesday. But the thing with Father Brown, because Chesterton used it as like a vehicle for his own beliefs, like that is part of the story, right? He's not necessarily trying to convert the reader, but he was the what's the word I'm looking for? It was like
Oh, you mean he was an apologist?
They're trying to defend religion through reason, and they're trying to present proof of God through philosophy and logic. And a lot of times when you're reading the Father Brown mysteries and he's talking about different characters, he makes a point of mentioning they were atheist.
Yes.
They were pagan. They were this and that. He's not flattering towards people from Asia, especially when he's talking about things from like India or East Asia. He does not describe them in a flattering or sensitive way. So yeah, no, that is definitely like an aspect of the stories that you can critique about him.
Yeah, well, and he also converted to Catholicism.
Yes.
Which is fascinating to me. Who was it that we talked about that also converted to Catholicism?
We've talked about a lot of not Catholics.
Yeah. I feel like something that is kind of common in people who convert to Catholicism, or the writers, well, let me not generalize. The writers that we've read, like if they convert to Christianity, that's when their stories have a much more overt sort of
it was
religious...
Paul Féval. Paul Féval stopped writing Gothic stories because he converted to something. I don't know if it was necessarily Catholicism, but it was one of the more, I guess. Yeah, and he was writing all those vampire stories, and he just stopped writing them.
Yes. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of then. See, I'm always torn on that because I love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Famously, and it
Well, C.S.
famously
Lewis was also a Christian apologetic.
yes, he was. And Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe famously has a lion as Jesus. And it like, that doesn't necessarily change my enjoyment of a story. If the writing is good, if the story is good, whatever. And, like, these you know what the Father Brown stories are? They're very, like you're on, like, a weekend vacation or something, or you have, like, a bus ride or a plane, like, a few hours on a plane or something, you're going somewhere. Like, these would be great as little, like, popcorn almost, because they're short stories and they're not necessarily tied together in a meaningful way. So if you've only got a little bit of time here and there, they'd be really good to not consume back to back to back to back.
Do you want to hear the other things that I highlighted in this book?
Yes, please.
A couple things I found notable. There was a reference to Wilkie Collins, who we will also be reading later on. There was a reference to Lord Byron.
The goat.
And the line there is madness, or can one have remorse, just as if one were in Byron's poems. And there was this scene. Where did it go? Actually, where did it go? Oh, there it is. There's this scene. Okay, so Father Brown and Flambeau, the former thief, were taking a holiday, and they were on a boat. And it says the vessel was just comfortable for two people. There was room only for necessities, and Flambeau had stocked it with such things as his special philosophy considered necessary. They reduced themselves, apparently, to 4 essentials: tins of salmon, if he should want to eat; loaded revolvers, if he should want to fight; a bottle of brandy, presumably in case he should faint; and a priest, presumably in case he should die.
You know, honestly, I do like Flambeau's character. He like I love a thief. I can't help it. And also a thief and a priest, that just sounds like a joke waiting for a punchline.
All right, and then I highlighted this one passage just because there is a story, I believe it was called The Hammer of God. But he's talking about a curate in a Gothic cathedral, and the way he describes the cathedral is just something else, so you have to listen to this passage. Ready? There is that element of Titan energy in the architecture of the Middle Ages that, from whatever aspect it be seen, it always seems to be rushing away, like the strong back of some maddened horse. This church was hewn out of ancient and silent stone, bearded with old fungoids and stained with the nests of birds. And yet, when they saw it from below, it sprang like a fountain at the stars, and when they saw it, as now, from above, it poured like a cataract into a voiceless pit. For these 2 men on the tower were left alone with the most terrible aspect of Gothic, the monstrous foreshortening and disproportion, the dizzy perspectives and glimpses of great things small and small things great, a topsy-turvydom of stone in the mid-air.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I'll give him that one. That's a pretty banger description. Which story was that?
The Hammer of God is what that one's called.
I didn't read that one. I'll have to find it in my volume because that sounds cool.
And then this I also just personally found amusing. And this is Father Brown talking. And he says, "If ever I murdered somebody," he said quite simply, "I dare say it might be an optimist." "Why?" cried Merton, amused. "Do you think people dislike cheerfulness?" "People like frequent laughter," answered Father Brown. "But I don't think they like a permanent smile. Cheerfulness without humor is a very trying thing." Because the whole crux of that story, and this was called The 3 Tools of Death, and this was the last one in the book. And the whole premise was a man is found dead, and everyone loved him, and he seemed to always be happy and have no problems at all. And he was a philanthropist, and everything about him was just so wonderful. But the reality was he was terribly depressed. And basically, how he ended was kind of by suicide, but also kind of by accident.
Oh, really?
So the lesson you're supposed to get out of that is that just
Check
because
on your friends.
people seem to be very happy and perfect doesn't necessarily mean that everything with them is happy and perfect.
It's a good message. Very true. Very actionable. Like that joke. Well, I'm gonna say it's from Watchmen. That Rorschach says. It's not from Watchmen. I think it's a famous anecdote. But how a guy goes to the doctor and he's really depressed, and the doctor says, "I know, you should go see this famous clown that's in town." And then the guy goes, "But doctor, I am the clown."
You know what that's from? That's from a movie. That's from Laugh Clown Laugh with Lon Chaney.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I know it from Watchmen.
I watched that movie.
I knew it had to be a famous anecdote from something. I knew. That's funny. Throwback to our theme last year, clowns.
Yeah, it was one of the things because he was great performer and everyone's talking about how great he was, but then he was actually terribly depressed.
I feel like that was a common theme with clowns.
See, the more we know.
The more you know. Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't have too much to say about Father Brown, just because he was just really grating on my nerves. But I liked Flambeau. It is interesting to see sort of a different side of mysteries than we've been exploring. So I can definitely appreciate that about reading them. But you know what? Not everything is for everyone, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's all I got. I mean, the stories are pretty short. They're pretty straightforward. It's a little bit out of our regular wheelhouse because they're not particularly gothic, even though he did describe so many heads bashed in
Well,
great
that's
detail.
yeah. I mean, it's gothic adjacent because that's kind of
There were
sensationalist, right?
there were
And
certainly enough gothic references in these stories,
yeah, and I mean,
up to and including a literal gothic cathedral.
and if you think about it, this is a dark literature podcast.
Hmm.
So, I mean, murder is dark.
Oh yeah.
The intersections of religion and law is dark.
Father Brown just did what he thought was right, which I guess takes us back to our My Hero Academia
Yeah, I
discussions.
know. I was just about to say we're right back around. He's like a quirkless Deku. Although Deku is kind of quirkless actually.
I don't see him becoming a priest.
No, but I could see him solving crimes.
That's what the hero world actually needs. There's no just like good old-fashioned detective.
No, there's All Might's friends with one. Todd, forget what his
Yeah,
name is.
yeah. He's a cop though.
He is a cop, that's true.
No, and there's no amateur detectives just going around and solving crimes for the fun of it.
That's true. No private eyes, no Nancy Drews.
Yeah, just the police detectives.
All right, nobody steal that. That's gonna be my fanfic academia. No.
My fanfic academia. I fully support this, and I would read it.
Well, I'll keep you updated.
Okay.
I've still got a Resident Evil fanfic that I haven't written. Oh my god, that was the other thing about the My Hero movie. The Resident Evil boss battle at the end really was just not it. Was not feeling that. But that's neither here nor there. Well, is there a cipher for our next? Oh, we were talking about maybe switching up the order, weren't we?
Yeah, I think either way, I'll do one for the next full-length novel. So next time will either be a novel or a short story. But I'll only do the cipher for the novel. So that's actually what I started off doing, but then Murders in the Rue Morgue was too tempting to not do one. So far though, all of my ciphers have been solvable.
I mean, that's good. You want that in a cipher. Because if you can't solve it, what's the point?
Yes, because people have solved them without me having to give any hints or clues.
Nice.
It's that cipher wheel that my dad made. A secret.
Oh yeah, I have one of those too now. It's very fancy. It is very fun.
Last time I had one with numbers, so it was a little different.
All right, well, keep your eyes peeled. If we read a novel next, you'll get another cipher, and if we read a short story next, just wait and see what the short story is.
Well, you'll get the cipher either way, but whether or not you'll know what the episode content is it'll be a mystery even to us.
That's true. All right, let's solve it together.
It'll depend on how fast I can read.
Yeah, I know. I have to pick up a copy from the library and then figure it out.
See, this one I actually have a copy of. I thrifted it.
Oh, nice. It's not that long, is it?
That's like medium.
Yeah, okay. I was about to say, it's not like, tome.
No, it's not like, Mysteries of Adolfo long, but it's not like super short either.
All right, well, we'll find out together, Haunted Heart Society members. In the meantime, give us a like, subscribe, follow us on pretty much every podcast platform you can think of. Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok, Substack. Subscribe on YouTube, like the video, hit the bell. And you know what? If you miss us, we've got a whole backlog you can go back and listen to. So for the next...
I would recommend starting with the Percy Shelley episode and then just go forward from there.
The Percy Shelley episode is good. Our War of the Worlds episodes were good. I really like those. Was that before or after Percy?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I think it was before.
Okay, well, but yeah, so go check us out there if you haven't listened to them already, or listen to them again. That's fine. Otherwise, we'll see you in 2 weeks. No, we won't. We will talk to you in 2 weeks. All right. Goodbye.